what's the point? Do I even need to do this? Should I even bother? What's the point anymore? Does Kanye even care? Why should I care? Yeah, we're doing it again. We're talking about Kanye West for the second time in 2024, reviewing the second Vultures album. Right on time, of course, because he's never late. No, this album did come bang on time. Yes. And the first Vultures I already talked about, it was bad. It was bad. It was poop. And the second Vultures is also bad. This one's turd this time. It's poop versus turd. Coffin baby versus coffin baby. Asthmatic baby maybe versus asthmatic baby. I don't even friggin' know at this point. Kanye West has teamed up with Dolla ign once again, because that combination worked so well the first time. I was honestly wondering if he was just going to completely ditch that whole trilogy after the reception the first one got. Yes, he got a #1 hit from it, and yes, it is a relatively popular song in terms of how well it's being streamed, but I think the general reception, even from Kanye stans, was kind of like teetering a little bit. You had the odd ones popping up, doing everything they can to defend it. You know, there's always going to be those people. But as months passed, I saw more and more people that were like defending it when it came out, then suddenly being like, this album hasn't aged well. And by the way, it's not even like 6 months old yet, this album. Like, this first album's like relatively young. And you had people months after being like, no, this hasn't aged well, I don't like it anymore. So I just thought maybe he'd see that and think, you know what, maybe it's time I need to actually listen to the fans and think, let's try and get back on track and do the right thing with the music and make music that matters again. That's the thing that's lost right now. Kanye isn't making music that matters. And I did the whole 4-5 minute spiel at the start of the Vultures 1 review, to the point where people in the comments were like, what was the point in doing all that? That wasn't even part of a review. You weren't even talking about the music, yada, yada, yada. I get it, but I feel like it was important to address all of the things that Kanye said recently. So if you want to see me talk about that, I don't know why you would, because it's not really telling you anything you already don't know. But if you do and you think, oh, it's important to address that, just watch that review again. I'm not doing it all again. I also don't want to be one of those music reviews that just boycotts the very idea of reviewing his music full stop. I think that's... I don't know. I think it's important to kind of document where he's at in the music sense, actually. I think it's important that we critique this. I think it's important that we hold him to a standard that he is more than capable of reaching. Beyond that standard, he's made some of the best hip-hop albums, songs of all time, out of any artist in the genre ever. Like, there is a standard here that we should be holding these artists to. It's the exact reason why people are so critical of Eminem now versus the 2000s, because the drop-off is like just sliding further and further and further into the abyss. But Kanye has probably gone even further lower than that, and it has way less chance of coming back up. I think Eminem has actually more potential to get back up to where he was. Kanye, I think, is just well into somewhere totally different now, and I think we need to document this and hold him to a standard and be like, look, this isn't good anymore. This needs to be better. You are putting out shocking music. Slide. Well, if there's a best track on this album, which one is it? Because it ain't Slide, so if you love this album, tell me in the comments which is the best track, because we're going to talk through pretty much every single one here, and I'm going to talk you through why they're bad. Slide, Dolla ign for me. I've always felt he was a small doses type artist. I think he's good on features. He works on, you know, the odd track here and there. What's Your Name? There are tracks in his catalogue that he's does well with, but just like dominating so much of the song, I just find to get bored of. I think his voice doesn't really carry that much power behind it. He isn't a particularly like efficiently great singer. Like, he's just serviceable, and I think that's what I mean when I say he's good in small doses. I get bored of him pretty quickly. Then you've got Kanye on here with awful rhymes. I wrote the friggin' bit down where he says, told her friend she's a 10, I lied, really, she in the high fives. And it's just like, what are we doing? This is just awful. Like it's across the whole album too. Whether it's boring, mediocre singing from Dolla ign, whether it's awful lyrics from Kanye, you just every turn you're going to hit one of them, and if it's not that, you're going to hit a feature that also doesn't sound that great either. With barely above par production. I'm sorry, I'm sick of people going, yeah, but as a producer, Kanye these days is still so good. This production isn't that impressive. Stop, please. Fried, great example. Carnival Part 2, really, basically just a copycat, a carbon copy of how that song sounded. It's got the same, I think they're called Inter Milan Ultras on the beat. Again, what's impressive about this production, it sounds like it's forced epicness. It's like forced epic. Like it's trying to really like hammer how epic I sound. You know, like those songs like DJ Khaled does it a lot, where it's like forced hypeness, where it just sounds so corporate and it just sounds so plastic. It doesn't sound like it's hype. It's trying really hard to be hype, but it doesn't sound like it's hype because you can feel like they're trying to shove it in your face at how hype I sound. I'm just so hype. All I want to do is win, like that kind of thing. This is that, but for epicness. It's forced epicness. It's got this like and it just goes nowhere. It just repeats over and over again. It doesn't feel exciting. You've got verse 2 from Kanye. Again, I'm writing down so many lyrics here because there's just so many to choose from. She giving blowjobs and I applied jobs. I applied like just really. Really? I'd like that's the kind of joke you'd say to your friends, like you come up with it and just like, oh, look how stupid I'm being. You wouldn't like write it down as a lyric, would you? It's just not funny at all. Kanye used to be funny. This is another annoying thing too. And then he compares her body to chicken in the next like few lines. Like, what are you doing? And this is another thing that needs addressing here, because there's so many like overly icky, yucky, misogynistic lines on this album, and I know some people will be like, oh, woke, but no, seriously, well, let's talk about this, man, because it isn't okay. Kanye, the way he talks about women on these past couple of albums, you know, she ride a dick like a carnival, like there's just, it's just gotten weird. Like, I know there'll be other artists throughout history of hip-hop that have wrote lyrics about women in this kind of way, and you'll go, yeah, it's just part of the game. It doesn't make those lyrics good either, and there's something about the way Kanye is doing it on this album and throughout the past couple where it just like feels like really ugh, you know what I mean? Field Trip has this aura as well, which is looking like it's going to become one of the bigger songs from the album, because it's got Don Toliver, Playboi Carti, Kodak Black, you know, big giant behemoths when it comes to like getting huge streaming numbers just kind of churned out. Of course, Kanye is just kind of jumping on their sounds for this. He's kind of become the new Drake, really, with this, where he's just so obsessively like trying to stay relevant. And the only way he can do it is to buy other sounds and jump on other sounds. And he's quite clearly trying desperately to do that on this album multiple times with the features that he gets on. I'm so surprised. I mean, I guess working with Kanye is probably a dream for so many people. I mean, who would turn that down? But I'm kind of surprised that so many big names are willing to jump on this, because this just doesn't sound good at all, really. But Don Toliver, his voice here, I've been a defender of Don Toliver many times before. I have a lot of fun memories with many tracks that he's on, features, the odd song from him here and there. But his singing on Field Trip is ear bleeding. This cannot make it into the charts. Like, we did too much with Carnival. We're not letting this one go in there as well. Like, what is this? His singing is atrocious. Carti sounds annoying again. I'm sick of his features recently. I'm just not really on board with it. And the track, the chorus with the lyrics again, the weird sort of lines about women and stuff. I'm just not here for it, man. What is Husband about as well, where he's like talking about how she just needs a husband and stuff? It's not the same kind of lines I've been talking about already on this album. There's like far worse lines, but he's just like doing this off-key singing crooning thing about how this woman needs a husband. And it's like, What are you on about? There's barely a beat. It's like mostly a cappella with these weird little things that pop in and out that sound crap. It's just a weird song. Kanye like needs to stop singing. Like, he isn't good at singing anymore. He's terrible at it. And this track, I don't know what is going on with it. Then it goes into Lifestyle, which has this like Lil Wayne feature which comes through. Again, not really keen on that. It's a big name coming through here, but for his standard, I don't particularly think it's very good. Although Lil Wayne post like 2010 hasn't been great, if we're being honest. He's had good moments, but he hasn't been great, has he really? Just find that track a whole throwaway. And then we circle back to Kanye doing the like a cappella off-key singing that he just did on Husband, and he sings the same like whole verse, and it's like, did you think it was that good? You needed to do it twice. like, why is it on two songs? I just don't know what's going on here. Promotion. It's got a mediocre Future feature. Again, like Future, I'm a fan of him, but no, not really here for it. And the Good Life reference. I think we need to take the power away from Kanye to do this. And there's also, I think there's a Heartless reference on this same track too, and he repeats the line over and over again, which is like we do at this time, you know, like that whole thing from Good Life. And it's like, we need to take that away from Kanye. You have ditched everything that ever made you good in the past 6 years ish. Really come on, it is, yeah, sure, Kids See Ghosts, all right, is good, but like past that, it's like not good, is it? Right? It's not good. You can't now make references to your old songs. I'm not letting you do it. I'm taking that power away from you, man. You're not allowed. You can't completely shit on your legacy the way you're doing and then just be like, let's remind people of the old days and mention this line from that song that they all like. No. You are either going to leave it all behind like you have been doing, or you're going to ditch this crap and go back to that stuff from the old days and do it well again. You can't have both. Like, you can't do... No, you're not having both. You're not making crap music and then also referencing your old music. No. You're doing one or the other. You're making good music, and then you might be allowed to reference it again. Or that's it. That's it. Bomb. Bomb. Bomb, 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 bomb. Wow. I said Hood Rap was one of the worst songs Kanye's ever done from Vultures 1. I still stand by that. However, Bomb is rivaling it and going head to head with possibly the worst song he's ever done. It's them two. They're neck and neck. They're the 100-meter final photo finish that just happened a few days ago. You know, Noah Lyles, yeah, that whole thing. These two songs are like that close to being the worst song he's ever made. Unbelievable, man. Northwest coming through here. Just one of the worst features in the world, this. Sorry, the vocals from Northwest are shocking. This sounds like what hell would be if like a nursery just had demons enter the nursery and everything went to shit. Like, this is what that sounds like. This is hell in a nursery, this song. It sounds awful. The beat is terrible. It's like this Jersey club thing that sounds really messy. What a terrible song. I think at this point he's got to be trolling. Like, he's got to be, hasn't he? Like, he is not making this thinking this sounds great. He can't be. I think there's got to be a self-awareness here. I think he's testing the waters. He's got to be. I've got to gaslight myself into thinking this, because there's no way he put this out thinking this sounds good. He just can't have. I think he's just thinking, right, let's see how crap my music can be and see if people will just eat it up no matter what I do. The funny thing is that the longer this album goes on, it actually gets slightly better. Like, I was expecting to just want to die after Bomb. But you know what? It's still not good, and I still don't particularly want to go back to any of the songs, but I think it carries the album ever so slightly up to being not as terrible as it could have been if there were just continuously more songs like Bomb for the rest of the album. Because... you know, 5:30, I don't really enjoy it. Again, I think Kanye's rapping is lazy on this track. I don't think it's particularly interesting in any particular way, really. But, you know, I thought the whole Drake line was going to be some kind of big thing that he threw out there for a reason. But it actually turns out that he isn't doing that for any particular reason. And he ends up name dropping like 10 rappers. He says Moneybag Yo at one point. He says Lil Baby. So that whole thing that went viral about it sounding like he was dissing Drake wasn't really a whole thing. It's not that the song is particularly that good, but I did think, oh, okay, this isn't what I expected it to be when I went into it. Dead actually is alright. The beat's quite good. It's got a bit more of a trap feel to it. You got Future on beast mode on this track. He's really coming through like some classic Future flows. Not enough to make the song fantastic or anything like that, or not even really up there with anything, you know, Future's put out in the best worlds that we've ever heard Future enter. But it's still good. It still sounds good, and it's a decent track. Sky City, I thought was going to be more interesting than it was, because I saw a few people talk about it as being one of the best songs on the album. It just kind of sounds like some really like cheesy coming of age Disney type stuff. Like, it does sound like something that could make it onto like a Disney soundtrack, if we're being honest. It's not terrible. It's also not particularly great, but you know, I just would expect at this point that the lyrics aren't going to be very interesting, and I'm right, because there isn't really anything that ties the theme together from Kanye's verse. He's just like phoning it in at this point. He's just phoning it in. Notice how I haven't really spent that much time talking about Ty Dolla Sign, because actually I think he gets drowned out a lot on this album. There is also a potential issue with the mixing, which I think he's on the works with trying to fix, which is ridiculous. Again, he's putting out music again that isn't finished. Why? But even aside from the laziness, and even aside from the fact that, you know, the mixing at times is not great, as again from Kanye West, there aren't really memorable moments from Ty Dolla Sign that like make me feel like, oh, he's carrying this song in an interesting way. He isn't singing well enough to keep me invested at any point really throughout the album. Kanye at times is sounding awful, dropping loads of weird lines about women consistently across the whole thing. The rhymes throughout are just like basic as hell. It's like a new Kanye is here, and this is like not even the real Kanye anymore. There's also rumors, and I don't want to talk about this too much because as of recording this review, I don't know any more information on it. But like apparently he's actually like thrown in some AI verses on this. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how true the claims are that he's actually stolen music again, which apparently is something that keeps popping up with each Kanye release. That could be just hot air that people are throwing out there just to create rumors. I don't know, again, how true it is. If any of that comes out, I could also, you know, I could always do like an extra video just addressing that and adding it on to this review later on or something. I don't know, or maybe just putting a post out there about it. I don't know. As of now, I don't really know those things. If these things are true, which honestly would not surprise me, it just goes to show how far he's fallen. It's just like crap, isn't it? It's just bad. What's happened? The word I wrote down at the top of my notes here was just soulless. You know, this is soulless. This is soulless music. Ty Dolla Sign sings, I feel nothing. Kanye West raps, I feel nothing. The production tries to be grand and epic at times, I feel nothing. Features come on, barely feel anything when they're around. If anything, they hinder the album at times, and somehow are actually worse than Kanye is on this album, would you believe? Sometimes they are. Anyway, yeah, it's just like soulless. Like when you think of music that makes you feel something, music that really reaches into you, and music can be different things. You know, you can go to something like a Lil Wayne in a Future for very different reasons you would go to a Marvin Gaye, for example. Obviously, I get that, but I feel just nothing listening to this. You know, when you look at an album that came out earlier this year, you know, No Worries, which is another duo collab album, they're very different in how they sound, and they're very different in what they were attempting to do. But I feel like every friggin' word that Anderson .Paak sings on that album, I feel every beat, every instrumental from Knowledge is just so good. It's crisp, it's soulful, it's just fantastic. That is music with a soul. And you'll have people online defending this Vultures album to the death, and yet they'll say nothing about that album. And it's just like, what are we doing? Can we change the landscape of things, please? Because I can't keep living in a world where Kanye puts out music like this and his fans will defend it to the death. It's time we say no. If we say no to this now and just reject it, he might listen and put in effort again. He might. We've got to do something to try and make him put in effort. If we say yes to this, I don't know why we would, but if we say yes to this, he's going to make a third one, and it'll have no soul or identity or well thought out writing or great flows. And it'll have none of those things that were there in the best days of Kanye. It'll have none of that. But yeah, sure, let's just say yes to it then. But okay, let's say yes to it, but also ask the question, is there a single song on this album that would make it into your top 40 Kanye West songs? I'm not going any higher than that, because we know nothing makes the top 10, nothing makes the top 20, and nothing makes the top 30. How about top 40? Let's be generous here. A single song is in the top 40 of his best ever on this album. No, there isn't. So why are you saying yes to this? Top 50? Still probably no. Top 60? Like, how far do we have to go back? Like, what's the reason to say yes to this? Even if you're a fan of it, you will not tell me without lying that this is in his top 5 albums ever. Top 3, top 4. It's not even close. Is it even in his top 10? Probably not. So why say yes? Why? There is no reason to say yes. We need to say no, and he needs to put in effort in his music again. Because this ain't it. I really want to go lower, and the way I've been speaking will make you think I'm about to drop like a 1 out of 10 on this, but I am not that extreme with my ratings as much as other music reviews are, or people on Rate Your Music might be. It's bad, but I've heard worse in my life. I want to go lower, but for me, this again, like the first one, is another 4 out of 10. It's just bad. It's bad, but the reason why maybe it sounds like I'm describing it worse than it is because you know an artist can do so much better, but yet they've fallen this low. So it's frustrating. It's got so many awful elements about it, but the entire thing from start to end isn't like the worst thing I've ever heard. It's more just the disappointment of hearing where he once was to where he is now. So yeah. What a streak he's on, man. I mean, you've had Yay, which I also didn't think was good. Jesus is King, which was like this gospel album that didn't do anything unique with anything about it and just sounded pretty bad most of the time. Donda, I still don't get the hype for Donda. It's probably the best thing he's put out since Kids See Ghosts, but it's still not that good. It's really long, sluggish. Again, feels a bit soulless at times to me, but then you really lose the soul completely when you get to Vultures and then Vultures 2. What a streak of albums. This is one of the worst runs we may have ever seen in the history of an artist who used to be great go on. Like, the drop-off is mad, and it's stayed this way for so long now. When is he going to climb back up? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts though. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Disagree? Do you think it's worse than I've said? Do you think it's actually better than I've said? Let me know. I'd love to see your thoughts in the comments. As always, make sure you subscribe as well. Check out my Patreon. That would be wonderful. Have a good day. Goodbye.